William saw one unexpected face at Windsor and reportedly cancelled the entire meeting. No argument. No warning. Just one lawyer standing in the room. But why was Camilla's private lawyer enough to make the future king walk away? Because according to the story, William realized the meeting might not be what he had been told. And what he noticed next changed everything. Charles's cancer diagnosis in early 2024 also made questions about the future feel much more urgent. But then William reportedly saw someone who wasn't supposed to be there, Camilla's lawyer. And within moments, the meeting was reportedly called off. Because William may have realized that this wasn't the discussion he thought he had agreed to. The real question is, what did that lawyer's presence tell him? The pressure behind the Windsor meeting wasn't a public crisis. It was the fear that time was running out to settle important questions about the future. And even the location carried a message. Buckingham Palace represents official state business. Clarence House is Charles's own ground, but Windsor feels different. It's tied to family history, private moments, and generations of royal life. So choosing Windsor reportedly made the meeting feel personal rather than institutional. That mattered, because the meeting was presented as a family discussion involving senior royals and trusted advisors. The atmosphere was supposed to be informal, private, and open. But then came the detail that changed everything. William had reportedly received a guest list beforehand. Camilla's private lawyer wasn't on it. She had either been added quietly or never disclosed. And that raised an obvious question. If her presence was completely ordinary, why wasn't William told? William reportedly entered the room and noticed a woman standing nearby. It wasn't a palace legal advisor representing the institution. It was Camilla's own solicitor, there to protect her private interests. And in that instant, the meeting William thought he was walking into may have looked very different. Because sometimes the most important part of a meeting isn't what gets said. It's who was never supposed to be there. The lawyer's presence changed the meaning of the entire meeting. A family conversation and a legal negotiation are two very different things. Once a private solicitor enters the room, every word can carry more weight. A casual agreement can later be presented as consent. William reportedly understood that almost immediately. He saw Camilla's private lawyer standing nearby, despite not appearing on the guest list, and the pieces seemed to connect. A family meeting, a private solicitor, no warning. Together, those details suggested that the conversation might not be as informal as William had been led to believe. He didn't wait for an explanation. He didn't sit down to hear the agenda. He reportedly turned around and ended the meeting before it could begin. And that's what makes the moment so revealing. The real issue wasn't simply the lawyer. It was the level of trust between William and the people arranging the meeting. If William could see an unfamiliar face and immediately suspect a hidden negotiation, that suggested something much deeper had already broken down. He wasn't entering the room expecting a trap to be proven. He was entering expecting to find one. And once that happens, even a family gathering can start to feel like a chessboard. So why didn't William simply sit down and see what happened? Because, according to the story, he believed the room had already changed before the first word was spoken. The lawyer wasn't just another person in the room. Her presence was the warning. The danger, according to the story, wasn't what William might hear. It was what could happen simply by sitting down. If he joined the discussion and appeared to agree with anything, even casually just to keep the peace, that moment could later be described as consent in front of legal counsel. So William reportedly chose the only way to remove that possibility. He refused the room itself. No argument. No confrontation. No long explanation. He simply ended the meeting and walked away. By doing that, he removed the one thing the entire setup allegedly depended on: William sitting at the table and participating. And that leads to the bigger question. What was the lawyer actually there to do? This is where the line between fact and interpretation matters. No documents from the meeting have been made public, and the palace has not officially confirmed what was discussed. So the details that follow should be understood as an interpretation of the reported circumstances, not established fact. The key word is continuity. According to the account, the meeting was about protecting Camilla's position beyond Charles's reign, her residence, role, access, and other arrangements connected to the royal estate. On the surface, continuity sounds harmless. But there was a major problem. Charles could make decisions during his reign. William would eventually become the sovereign, and any arrangement designed to continue beyond Charles's reign could affect the authority of the future king. That may explain why the meeting needed William involved. A formal legal agreement would require clear approval, but a private family conversation could create something much harder to define. And William reportedly understood that difference. He knew that once a lawyer was sitting in the room, the conversation was no longer simply about family. It had become about what could later be treated as an agreement. So instead of negotiating inside that room, William walked away from it. Because sometimes the strongest way to reject a deal isn't to argue over the terms. It's to refuse to become part of the negotiation at all. Instead of a formal agreement, the reported strategy may have depended on something much softer, the appearance of family consensus. If William sat down, discussed the proposal, and seemed to accept parts of it, that conversation could later be remembered as evidence that he had agreed. And that may explain why the setting mattered so much. According to the account, the proposed continuity arrangement was meant to protect Camilla's future after Charles's reign, covering possible residence rights, her royal role, and continued involvement in family affairs. From William's perspective, that could create a serious problem. He would eventually become king, yet decisions made before his reign could limit choices he would later be expected to control, and timing was everything. While Charles remained king, his authority could help secure those arrangements. After the succession, the situation could look very different. That makes the Windsor setting especially important. A private family conversation could feel warm, personal, and informal. But if a private lawyer were present, anything said could carry a very different meaning. Still, it's important to separate the reported story from confirmed fact. The palace has not publicly released the documents or confirmed that this was the purpose of the meeting. But if the account is accurate, William's concern becomes easier to understand. He wasn't necessarily afraid of the document. He was afraid of what his own words might become after the meeting ended. And then comes the human side of the story. Camilla's concerns were not necessarily about power alone. They could also come from a very real fear of what life might look like after Charles's reign. For Charles, protecting his wife may have felt like a final responsibility. For William, protecting the future monarchy may have required saying no. And that is what makes the situation so complicated. Both sides could believe they were protecting the institution, while moving in completely opposite directions. When Charles is no longer king, Camilla's position could change dramatically. As queen consort, much of her public role and access to royal resources comes from being married to the reigning monarch. If Charles dies before her, she would become a widow of the former king. She could keep her personal assets and whatever title or status remained appropriate, but her place at the center of royal life would likely depend far more on the next sovereign. And that sovereign would be William. For someone facing that uncertainty, the fear could be very real. Imagine knowing that your security and future role may change almost overnight, while the person who will eventually make those decisions is your stepson, with whom your relationship has reportedly been difficult for years. From that perspective, the desire to secure some protections while Charles is still king becomes easier to understand. It doesn't automatically make the reported plan a power grab. It could simply be someone trying to prepare for a future she knows is coming. And the timing would make that fear even stronger. Camilla's influence is greatest while Charles remains on the throne. His authority gives her a level of security that could become much harder to guarantee later. So every passing year could make the question more urgent. Then there is Charles himself. According to the story, his motivation was deeply personal. Facing his own mortality, he wanted to know that the woman who had stood beside him through years of public pressure would not suddenly be left without protection. He had watched Camilla endure criticism and controversy while supporting him. Now, he wanted to build a safety net before he was no longer there to provide it. That doesn't necessarily make Charles the villain of the story. It makes the situation far more complicated. A husband was trying to protect his wife. A future king was trying to protect his future authority. And both believed they were doing what was necessary. The tragedy was that their goals could not easily fit inside the same room. Charles wanted to secure the future before his time ran out. William wanted to make sure that future wasn't decided without him. And somewhere between those two fears, The Windsor meeting was heading toward a collision. William's reaction becomes more understandable when you look at the history behind it. For years, he has seen how the royal institution can handle difficult situations through private discussions, careful planning, and decisions made away from public view. And the strongest influence on that instinct is his mother, Diana. William was only 15 when Diana died. He grew up seeing the intense pressure surrounding her life, and the way the institution tried to manage difficult situations behind closed doors. So imagine what a private Windsor meeting might represent to him decades later. A warm family setting, soft language, an unexpected lawyer, and a discussion that could potentially shape his future reign. To William, according to this account, that combination may not have felt comforting at all. It may have felt familiar. Not necessarily because anyone intended to repeat the past, but because he had learned very early that private decisions can have consequences that last for years. His refusal, then, wasn't simply about legal caution. It could also have been an instinctive refusal to let someone else quietly shape his future. He wasn't only thinking about himself. He was thinking about the monarchy he would eventually inherit, his children, and the responsibilities that would come with becoming king. That's why the Windsor setting becomes so ironic. The meeting was reportedly designed to feel personal. Come as a son, speak as family, leave the formal world outside. But instead of lowering William's guard, the intimacy may have raised it, because the very thing meant to make him feel safe could have reminded him of everything he had learned to distrust. They wanted him to see family. He may have seen the machinery behind it. They wanted warmth to open the conversation. Instead, that warmth may have triggered his caution. And that could explain why William didn't sit down and wait to see what happened. He walked away before the conversation could begin, because sometimes the strongest reaction isn't anger. It's recognizing a pattern and refusing to step into it again. And then William's instincts took over. Within those first few moments, the entire situation reportedly changed. Charles was there hoping the meeting would finally resolve the growing disagreement. Camilla wanted her future protected while Charles still had the authority to help her. Her lawyer was present, ready to observe the discussion. Then William walked in. The entire plan depended on one thing: William sitting down and participating. But he noticed the lawyer. And suddenly, the warm family meeting looked very different. William reportedly understood that whatever happened next could later be treated as an agreement. So instead of taking his seat, he refused to participate. And what happened next was surprisingly calm. He didn't shout. He didn't accuse anyone. He didn't create a dramatic confrontation. He simply ended the meeting and walked away. That restraint may have been the most powerful move he could make. Because if William had lost his temper, the story could have changed instantly. He could have been portrayed as aggressive, disrespectful, or unwilling to compromise. Instead, there was almost nothing to use against him. No explosive argument. No dramatic statement. No embarrassing scene. Just a meeting that never happened. And that's important because royal disputes are often fought through perception as much as through power. A confrontation gives the other side something to explain. Silence gives them almost nothing. If William had openly attacked Camilla, sympathy could have shifted toward her. She could have been presented as the person humiliated by an angry stepson. But by remaining calm, William avoided giving anyone that opportunity. He didn't just refuse the agreement. He refused to create the confrontation that could have been used against him afterward. And that's what made the moment so difficult to fight. There was no scene to leak. No angrikot. No dramatic accusation. Only a quiet decision. The meeting was not happening. In a family where perception matters almost as much as the decision itself, William's silence may have been his strongest protection. He didn't give them a fight. He gave them nothing. And sometimes, nothing is exactly what makes a power move impossible to reverse. That wasn't simply instinct. It was discipline. William reportedly understood that refusing to create a confrontation could be more powerful than winning one. Afterward, there was said to be a private conversation between William and Charles, without advisors around them. And unlike the Windsor meeting, this conversation was reportedly much quieter. Charles did not simply deny the concerns. Instead, he reportedly explained himself as a husband and father. His goal, he said, was to protect Camilla and give her some certainty about the future while he still could. William reportedly understood that fear. But he also made his own position clear. If Camilla's future genuinely needed to be discussed, he was willing to have that conversation openly. What he would not accept was being guided into an agreement without knowing the full purpose of the meeting. The issue wasn't Camilla. It was the way the discussion had been arranged. And one question reportedly cut straight to the heart of it. If the proposal was fair and reasonable, why did it need to be introduced through a meeting where the lawyer's presence wasn't disclosed? That question changed the argument. Because a proposal that can survive open discussion shouldn't need to depend on surprise. According to the account, Charles understood the point. The problem wasn't necessarily the desire to protect Camilla. It was the method chosen to achieve it. And that's what made the situation so painful. Charles may not have been trying to undermine his son. He may simply have been a husband worried about what would happen to his wife after his reign. But in trying to protect her future, he had chosen a method that made William feel manipulated. And William's response was not to embarrass him. It was to quietly refuse. That may have been even more difficult for Charles to accept, because William could have publicly accused him. He could have turned the whole episode into a confrontation. Instead, he walked away and said almost nothing. Then came the lasting consequence. According to the account, William made it clear that future meetings presented as family discussions would have to remain exactly that. If legal representatives were involved, everyone would need to know in advance. The hidden lawyer strategy, if that is what it was, could never be repeated in the same way. William hadn't simply stopped one meeting. He had closed the loophole. And Princess Anne reportedly understood the significance immediately. Known for her direct approach, she was said to believe that legal representation should never appear unexpectedly in what was presented as a private family conversation. Whether every detail of this account is accurate or not, the larger message is clear. William's real objection wasn't to discussion, it was to being maneuvered into one. And once that boundary was established, the rules of the next royal conversation had changed forever. When someone like Anne reportedly says the process was wrong, her judgment carries weight. Her entire public life has been built around duty, rules, and doing things properly. She isn't known for bending procedure simply to get a preferred result. That is why her reported support for William matters. If the Windsor meeting really presented a legal discussion as an informal family conversation, then the issue wasn't simply who was right or wrong. It was whether the process itself had been handled correctly. For Anne, reportedly, that distinction was important. She wasn't necessarily defending William because he was her brother. She was defending the principle that important decisions should be handled openly and properly. And her position gave William something he couldn't create for himself: credibility. Without Anne, William's refusal could easily have been portrayed as a son challenging an aging father. With Anne reportedly agreeing that the situation needed to be handled differently, the story became much harder to dismiss. The person least interested in palace drama was now backing the importance of proper procedure. But the story didn't remain inside Windsor. Within days, reports began circulating that a carefully planned family meeting had suddenly disappeared. The full details weren't public. But the unanswered questions were enough. Why had the meeting ended so quickly? Why had senior royals reportedly left earlier than expected? And why was the palace saying almost nothing? No dital dinael. No confirmación. No explanación. Just silence. Then reports of cars leaving Windsor earlier than expected added another layer to the mystery. You can't photograph a cancelled agreement. But you can photograph an empty schedule and an early departure. And for people who understand how the royal household communicates, that silence can sometimes say more than a statement. The palace didn't have to confirm the story. It only had to avoid giving it an answer. Then the silence began doing the palace's job. With no clear explanation for the cancelled Windsor meeting, speculation exploded. Was it a scheduling issue, a health concern, or something far more serious? No one knew. But months of preparation reportedly disappearing within minutes raised one obvious question: what really happened inside Windsor? According to the story, William now understood exactly what Camilla's side wanted, and how they had tried to present it. The informal approach was over. Any future discussion would need to be open and transparent. But there was a deeper problem. Camilla's concerns were real, and Charles's desire to protect his wife was understandable. By walking away, William may have stopped what he believed was a trap, but he also closed the door on an honest conversation the family still needs to have. And that's the real twist. William may have won the moment, but the biggest question remains unanswered. What happens to Camilla when Charles is gone? Because sometimes the strongest move isn't winning an argument. It's refusing to sit down at all.